At first blush, as budget cuts loom, French theater turns up the political heat sounds like a headline someone might flip out of a business report. But it actually pulls from the real world of France's oldest performing arts tradition, and it's all beginning in Avignon. The summer festival that takes place in the picturesque city rolls out more than just theater, it lights the fire of a cultural crisis that's threatening the very bones of public-funded art. Right before Bastille Day, a rhythm of protest played through the Théâtre des Amandiers and the Papal Palace, the festival's grand venue, when dozens of prominent French directors gathered to speak to an enthused audience about Julien Gosselin's play, Maldoror. Guitar riffs were off, meanwhile Tambien, the heart of the problem, was on the line. Rebecca Chalin, a fierce advocate, said, "Repeated budget cuts with more to come force us to scream, because they've created an emergency." And it's no exaggeration. In early July, the French Culture Ministry announced that it would freeze a portion of its remaining 2026 arts funding. Roughly 28 performing arts institutions, theaters, opera houses, orchestras, are suddenly facing up to a 12% reduction in their yearly subsidy. The monetary hit is not abstract. For the recently renovated Théâtre des Amandiers in Nanterre, that cut translates into a loss of over $900,000, a sum that threatens even a file for bankruptcy. And that is just the headline of the story. Avignon, which has long been a convergence point for artists, programmers, and audiences, reacted instantly. Last week, about 1,800 people took to the steps outside the Papal Palace in a dramatic demonstration. Masks and banners marked the moment. Early indications of a union strike on the way in theaters being occupied question whether this is a protest against funding alone or a reckoning about a system of public support that coasted around France since World War II. Lack of funding is no little thing in a country that has for decades been a model of cultural abundance. Public libraries, community theaters, and national subsidies have fed a dense network of cultural venues that makes the country a magnet lemons for artists worldwide. Yet even a thick network can't be exhausted. Cuts to culture, once considered taboo, now form an unacceptable routine. And as the financial risk settled, the stage has taken a new, prominent turn. French theater has always had a reputation for activism, and the Avignon Festival is no stranger to that. In 2024, the festival even marketed itself as a festival of resistance after a far-right surge in the first round of parliamentary elections. This year, numerous productions have sharpened the conversation around current social issues. Take, for example, Christiane Jadahi's reimagining of Ibsen's An Enemy of the People. In a bold twist, she invited the audience to become part of the narrative, essentially having them judge a kind of modern trials. That staging walks a tightrope of agency. Even with the financial gloom, the French public remains an audience that won't sit idle. The escalation is a story in two parts. On one side, it's the puzzle of budgeting, a 12% freeze set to hit theaters system-wide, the risk of bankruptcy for institutions already working to revitalize their spaces, and the threat of eventual layoffs or cancelled productions. On the other side is the dynamic on stage, the creative responses that administer protest, the way that drama, the very mechanism of society, insists on speaking out. The spotlight isn't just sync-shot, it is broadcasting to a national conversation. In that sense, the Avignon Festival doesn't merely showcase plays, it acts as a live review of the state of PodGen. How do creators estimate financial miscalculation, vector protests, or how else they might receive, engage with, or produce drama items? That is a real gamble, but it also illustrates an essential truth: art keeps producing meaning even in the face of no money. To sum, the crisis of budget cuts for French theater is more than a fiscal question. It's a cultural inquiry. It tells us how well the public upholds the arts' place in society, and it spins on stage a reflection that arguably belongs to every writer. Whether the system will survive remains uncertain. The question, however, is whether or not the stage will see anyone sit or if someone will keep the lamp lit. That is the headline we are giving up to in something that is pressing. That's the story for now. Thank you for tuning in to ours. Be sure to keep up as Festival only continues, and you can stay for the rest of the story when it drops next week. In the meantime, be ready for the next angry chore, the next fear-nipping performance, and for more good news.